good morning and good day from the Brew Crew. It's Julian, joined by Chev. Chev, how you doing?
Not too bad. I like how you almost said my name first.
I know it's Chev joined by Julian. Julian joined by Chev. We're actually just one conscious entity, pretending that we're not a computer program speaking into your ear holes. But anyway, this is episode 5 of the Brew Crew Podcast, and we have some exciting things to talk about, just like we do every week. Chev, why don't you tell them what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, so we'll start off with some changes that have happened to the Brew Crew since we last did a pod. A couple of the band announcement thingies from last week in formats I know nothing about. Spoilers for Double Masters, and then maybe talk a little bit about a card of the week sort of thing.
Excellent. Yeah. So, like you said, we have had some exciting things happening here at the Brew Crew Podcast. We're actually bringing in a new member, maybe
Mm-hmm.
possibly more. So, one of our friends from our local playgroup, Eric, is coming in. He's already released one or two articles now, and he's focusing mostly on the EDH content,
Yep.
specifically looking at kind of the intersection between CEDH and EDH and how you can build decks that are competitive while also um, on the cheap, which is great because Magic is an expensive hobby that we have all spent too much on already.
Oh
So
yeah, especially once you get into CDH where all the cards are ridiculously expensive.
yes, all those old cards where Wizards didn't know what they were doing yet. So
Mm-hmm.
people flock to get those up. But yes, we're very excited to have Eric. Stay tuned for his content. He is I don't know. He's already putting out some real heaters, so we're happy to have him. And we might have some more people joining us in the near future. So obviously, once they are official, we will welcome them in with open arms. So next, let's talk about the bannings, also an unbanning, and then also stuff like that. So I'm looking here at the ban and restricted announcement from July 13th, 2020. It's a big one, so let's just go through it. So historic, Agent of Treachery, banned. Winota of Forces, banned. Fires of Invention, banned. All of these cards came off of the suspended list, which, for those of you who don't know what the suspended list, which I think might be my co-host,
Yep.
um, it is essentially like timeout. So these cards have done something bad, and they're going to sit off on the sidelines. They're going to think about what they did, and we're going to see how the format is without them in it
Mm.
briefly. So Wizards made an official statement actually in this, since historic ranked is now a permanent feature.
Yeah.
That essentially suspended still functions like that, and it's like I said, it's kind of like a timeout. So they want to see how the format shakes out without these cards in it, and then depending if things settle normally and they feel that they can come back in safely, they'll bring them back in. And if they feel that the
Okay.
formats settle into a much better, healthier place, they will ban them. They said that they want to make all those sort of decisions within about a 2 month time frame. So it's not like things are sitting in purgatory for
Yeah.
a
So it's
very
kind
long
of just
time.
like band light.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
It's a trial. It's a trial period.
Yeah.
So
Well, I can't
those are
say, in all the formats that I've seen these cards, I've never enjoyed being across from an Agent or a Winota or a Fires or a Nexus of Fate. So, knowing nothing else about Historic, I feel like the format has to be better without them.
yes, I think that was the reasoning behind a lot of this. I mean, we just had Agent and Fires banned. What? Not even a month ago in
Yeah,
Standard.
with Winota being banned in Brawl as well.
Yes, yeah. So Winota not as busted in Standard, but when you can uh, turbo her out a little bit quicker in Historic,
Oh,
and
yeah.
also you have there's this human from Ixalan that uh, basically makes all your permanents do double damage. So when you know
Oh, yeah.
attack with a few non-humans on turn 3 or 4 with a Winota in play, and you get like 2 or 3 of those, plus maybe an Agent of Treachery, it's usually game over for your opponent. So
Yeah.
Winota, obviously, as we have seen in the past, things that just get to cheat mana, cheat cards into play. It is not used for the forces of good. It is used for the forces of evil, and therefore she has been removed from
Axe
the
it.
format. So
Destroy it.
yes, and as you mentioned, Nexus of Fate was also banned. That is another card that has been really should have gone a long time ago. That is just a miserable card to play against.
Yeah.
Um, and it's almost worse than the others, where it's not like it's making you play Magic to the absolute extreme. It's just not letting your opponent play Magic, which is no fun and not really something that we want to promote in the game. And I'm glad that Wizards agrees because they finally have gotten that thing out. It didn't help that it was primarily played in the Wilderness Reclamation deck in
Yeah,
Historic.
which already had enough going on.
Exactly, and Chev, you play enough Standard to know that Wilderness Reclamation is a powerful force, and it is an even more powerful force in Historic. So we're glad that Nexus of Fate is gone as well. Last thing, Burning Tree Emissary is suspended. So Burning Tree Emissary got put in the corner. Um, this is because Gruul Aggro is the other uh, top tier deck
Hmm.
besides these Nexus decks, at least pre
It
this
was, yeah, yeah.
pre this thing. So we'll see how that shakes out. But I think the fact that you can Burning Tree Emissary into another 2-drop, or potentially Burning Tree into Burning Tree into Burning Tree into Scavenging Ooze or whatever, some other
Right.
2-drop. Um, Once again, it's just that cheating of mana that those quote unquote free cards. It's just very hard to stop. So I think Wizards wanted to put a little pump the brakes on Gruul Aggro and
Yeah,
see.
that's fair. I mean, considering that we always seem to be talking about how powerful green is, and mostly in relation to standard, but you get all that plus a little bit extra in historic, then green doesn't need more help.
Correct. The interesting thing is that Burning True is actually one of the cards that they put into
Oh yeah,
the
yeah, in one of their
historic
historic things.
anthologies. So, but I'd rather it be like that than them print
Hmm.
some busted card in standard and have to
Yeah.
get rid of it. I'd rather they, take the chance and inject a card into the format, and
Oh,
then
definitely. Yeah. I
they can
like the
always
idea
just
of
get rid of it.
bringing in new and interesting things, and then if it doesn't work out, at least sort of thing. And especially in a place like online, where I believe it's whenever a card gets banned, you get wild cards to compensate yourself, and it's like you can't really have less of a risk with this thing. You remember the days? Well, I guess they could still happen in the future where people would get so upset they'd like burn their decks once things get banned. But at least in the online environment that we're in now, it's the easiest sort of way to go from I have a broken deck and I'm playing it and now it's got banned to all right, let me try something else.
Yes, I do. I do like that policy, and I'm glad that Wizards is. So that's historic for now. We'll see how it's kind of shaking out going forward. Let's
So
move on
Julian,
to
now
our.
now that these cards are gone, does this mean we're going to see your foray into historic? Because I
Um,
remember you saying you were waiting exactly until Agent of Treachery, Winota Fires, and Nexus were banned, and that's what I'm seeing now.
you're right that this does make me want to play historic more. I have been procrastinating that research in that article. So
The viewers want
I don't know.
content, Julian.
I
I mean,
think I
I
think the
can't hold them back much longer.
I think the viewers need to hold me accountable. I think they should hit us up on Twitter and tell us how much they want me to play historic. So yeah, that should be coming sometime in the next
Month.
sometime in the future. That'll be coming.
Yeah, yeah.
So hmm, nothing like some tea in the morning.
Yeah.
Next to our next format, Pioneer. Do you remember Pioneer, Chev? You remember that format? Remember how it was all the rage for a little bit? I feel like no one's
Oh
talking about it.
yeah, no, this is like this really Pioneer reminds me of what was that thing that came out right when we started Magic that they were trying to get going that starts with like Origins and went till whatever the modern day was. Frontier, that's what it was. It's
Frontier.
another, non-rotating format with a smaller card pool than Modern that just no one really wants to play with. Or at least Wizards isn't trying to actively promote because like they exist and people want something that is less broken than Modern in a lot of ways. But it's hard to kind of convince Wizards and people that need to sell cards that non-rotating formats is where to put attention.
Yes. So Pioneer had so much hype, so much hope. Uh,
Yeah,
it was,
I mean
it was.
it's like Historic's weird little brother at this point.
Well, Historic originally was like Pioneer's weird little brother. They announced Pioneer, and then they announced Historic was going to be
That's true.
the arena only format. And Pioneer has just kind of been a mess over the past little bit.
Yeah,
So the changes that they made was that Oath of Nissa is unbanned. There's no bannings in Pioneer. They just took Oath of Nissa off the ban list, which doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, there's so many things in Pioneer that could have been banned.
yeah.
Currently, there is the Inverter of Truth, Thassa's
Yeah,
Oracle.
yeah, that's right. I
Uh,
know nothing about Pioneer, but I know Inverter of Truth is a problem.
yes, that control/combo deck is not oppressive numbers, but it's certainly very strong. A lot of people think that something should get taken out of that. There is the Underworld uh, Breach, yeah, Underworld Breach deck,
Mm-hmm.
combo deck, which is also very strong. That people think something should get taken out of that. Um, but no, Oath of Nissa's unbanned, which it was only originally banned in the first place because it helped make 3 mana planeswalkers, aka Saheeli Rai combo when that was legal, and
Yeah.
also Oko, and then of course like Teferi's in the format, 3 mana Teferi and 3 mana Narset and all that stuff. So
Yep.
it just helped make those sort of decks even more broken. I don't know why they think that it needs to come back, even though some of those cards have been banned.
Yeah, I mean, it
Um,
seems like a classic fight fire with fire sort of thing. Like, if combo decks are, powerful, they're like, great, we'll add something to make the other decks, rise to meet it, as opposed to being like, all right, there's clearly two main problems of Inverter of Truth and Underworld Breach. If we get rid of those, then we just open up way more play styles to the meta, as opposed to just ramping the format forward.
exactly. So it's I don't know. I really think Wizards missed the mark here.
Yeah.
I think that
What's interesting to me, Julian,
there's no
is
reason to make it an arms race. Sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
I was just going to say that there was an announcement with one of the arena states of the game where they talked about Amonkhet coming back in August, but they also talked about the next Masters set after Double Masters is going to be an online exclusive for arena called Pioneer Masters, and they're going to be adding it to Historic.
Yes, you're right. So
And so it's like they're trying to capitalize on the name that it exists, but it doesn't seem like it's getting a lot of support. Which it's hard to be a budding format in coronavirus times, but it definitely seems like a little more could have been done with it.
yeah, well, I mean, there's I don't know. One of the things is that Pioneer is strictly in Magic Online right now, which
Mm-hmm.
respect. I don't know why. I guess I do. We know why it's not originally on Arena because they would have to backfill all those
Yeah, yeah,
card
a
sets,
lot of stuff they're
which I
not
understand.
gonna do.
Which I understand would take a long time, and they're going to do Pioneer Masters. So it sounds like, and I believe they even said an official statement, they want to get Pioneer on Arena. I think sometime next year.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, Pioneer's been sitting on Magic Online, kind of in purgatory for a while. People are not playing it, not right
Yeah,
now. It was very hot when it first came out, but it
yeah,
quickly died down, just like Frontier before it, just like a lot of formats that Wizards has tried to create and push. And people are not playing the format because the format is not not healthy, I guess, as
yeah,
you would say. And I think a lot of that comes from the power creep in standard. I mean, the whole idea was that you would be able to play with this extended card pool, but when you keep printing all these busted things in standard, as we've seen, as we've talked about all the time, we don't need to rehash it. Um,
yeah.
but they're kind of just overshadowing everything else. And I think the real thing is you need to make some big changes on the top end and allow for
Right.
the rest of the cards because there's so many cool cards from Khans, from Ixalan, from
Mm-hmm.
Kaladesh, from Shadows over Innistrad. Does anyone even remember that set? You know what I mean? Like from all this stuff, and even before Khans, when we started playing in OG Theros and Return to
Yeah,
Ravnica and
yeah,
all that stuff, there's so many cool cards in this format, but they're just being overshadowed by things like
yeah. I'm thinking,
all
Julian, if
that
I
sort of
put
stuff.
on my tinfoil hat for a minute, if
Please.
Pioneer, if Pioneer, falls on its sword and turns out to not be filling queues on online, it'd be a reason not to bring Pioneer to Arena. And it can be like, listen, we looked and the support just isn't there. No one's playing Pioneer. Historic has now reigned supreme. The king is dead. Long live the king.
Yeah, I mean I didn't understand the split in the beginning, and
Mm-hmm.
now that they're trying to actually bring Pioneer to Arena, does that mean that Historic is going to be gone, or are they going to have both? It just
Oh, they would definitely have both. Historic has had too much, pumped into it at this point, I would say, with its historic anthologies and things like that, where Pioneer, like, exists because new cards are printed. But I feel like, if I haven't been on online too much, I know the idea, or not the idea, I know that queues aren't being filled for Pioneer. Um, but I don't think you would actively bring over something that is not performing the way you would want, or build out the necessary engineering to have Pioneer on Arena if it's not a fun format. And if the issues exist with Pioneer on online, The only difference with them on Arena would be they look kind of nicer when you lose the combo decks.
Yeah, I still am just I don't know. I mean, as nice as it is to have as many formats as possible, I feel like by bringing Pioneer over,
It
it's
it
just another.
overcomplicates things. Yeah,
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 and now all of a sudden you might be diluting your other player bases, whether that's
right,
historic or
exactly. Yeah,
brawl or
Arena seems to work
standard.
because it has a smaller pool of formats where it's like, on any given day I turn it on, I'm like, oh, let me draft for a little bit, or oh, I'll play a couple games of standard and then like end the day with some brawl. But I'm not as much as I love other formats. Exactly like you said, I'm not sure how many more before it's just like it feels crowded.
Yeah. So anyway, that's Pioneer. We will wait and see what
Hmm.
happens, but I don't be planning to play Pioneer anytime soon. I
Yeah.
don't think you do either,
Nope.
and I'm still just concerned for the health of the format as it is.
Yeah.
But
Get
um,
better.
I don't know.
Maybe you need some chicken soup, some R&R.
Yeah,
Once people are back playing in paper, maybe we'll see a bigger push to get it kind of fixed.
yeah. I mean, I think there were talks of like high level events being played in the format. So I don't know. We will wait with bated breath. Not really.
Yeah.
All right. Next format, modern, Arkham's Astrolabe banned. Um, this apparently has been a long time coming. I'm not super knowledgeable on
Yeah.
modern, but the the
I think
kind
it's
of
just the big thing is that it just allows any kind of mana to, be played, and so it's opening up decks to use everything because in essence, it plays for one mana, you draw a card from it, and then from then on any land can be any color you want. Or,
right,
one of them. So you can fix yourself like incredibly easily. And so it's really, over consistizing, it's making decks over consistent is the proper English. I
yes, I
prefer to
believe.
stick with consistizing as a true word. But
Um, yeah. So like you said, it just makes splashing easy, and that's one of the tenets of modern is that theoretically you can play any mana base, but because of the fetch shock system, um,
yeah,
it costs you, and then also there's things obviously like Blood Moon. So
right.
it was making that a little bit too easy. The thing, the kind of perverted thing really is that it was a problem in the fact that it was kind of breaking those natural rules, but the only decks that were playing Arkham's Astrolabe were inherently fair decks. They were like mid-rangey decks. Yes, they
Yeah,
were playing things like, Uro and Cryptic Command and cards like that, but these were not combo decks. These were not decks that were, um, get you dead as fast as possible. They were more mid-rangey sort of decks. Um,
yeah,
Things that generally are considered healthier for the format. So it'll be interesting to see if the removal of those decks, because I don't really think they're going to um, be nearly as prominent or as powerful without that mana
yeah,
consistency. It'll be interesting to see if we see more, um, I guess, degenerate decks coming through back to the top. If there's things like all of a sudden ad nauseum is very
hmm,
strong, or other things along that vein where people are quote unquote not really playing Magic. So
yeah,
we'll stay tuned. But from what I have heard through the modern community, modern's actually been like kind of fine recently. So um, hopefully it stays that way because we just want a healthy format.
yeah.
All right. Last thing, real quick: Pauper Expedition Map banned, Mystic Sanctuary banned. Uh, I know nothing about Pauper. I know Chev.
Yeah, so
You
so I
played
can
Pauper
I
for a
can
bit.
jump in here for a minute. The big issue with Mystic Sanctuary is a card called Deprive from Rise of the Eldrazi. I believe, Julian, you might play this in your Tameo deck, but for those
Yep.
of you who don't know, it's UU instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, return a land you control to its owner's hand. Counter target spell. And you might see where I'm going with this. You add that to Mystic Sanctuary, which is when it enters the battlefield and you have three or more islands, you may put target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard on top of your library. So it had the ability to create these loops of just countering everything that the other person was doing. And Expedition Map, is an insane card, and I'm surprised it's been legal in Pauper for so long. But I think with Mystic Sanctuary, it was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I have known that mono blue has been a commodity in Pauper for a while. Obviously, things like Peregrine Drake have been banned before.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, I'm not surprised with Mystic Sanctuary. That card is doing busted things in modern and vintage and potentially legacy. Um,
yeah. It's
really,
wild.
the only format it hasn't seen play in really is like standard, which is I guess
Yeah,
mono blue
it's
just
just
isn't
too
really a
slow
thing.
in standard. I think. Well, it has no ability to be cheated out super quickly in standard.
Right. There's no crop rotation in standard. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Ugh.
So I am a little sad that Tron is going to be eating a bullet for this for
Yeah.
Expedition map. I don't know how powerful Tron is in Pauper, but I know
It
that
was
when
it
I
was pretty
played it,
powerful for a while. I back in the day I ran Tron for a little bit. It was a lot of
yeah, I
fun.
think I think I tried I messed around with Tron when back on our Magic Online days when I was
Yeah.
just trying to play some Pauper, and I don't know, it was a fun little deck. I don't know how aggressive it was in the metagame though, but
Yeah.
anyway, Pauper seems like a fun little format. I'm sure
Yeah, I know.
there's enough
I'm
people
glad it's still
playing it.
getting. Yeah, I'm glad it's still getting like the attention and all those things because I really like the idea of Pauper. I just, once I moved from online to arena, it wasn't enough of a reason for me to go back.
Right,
You can't
exactly.
take away my flashy graphics. It's too late. I've become addicted.
Yeah, seriously, especially especially when you're just looking at Windows 95. That is
Oh yeah.
Magic Online.
Yeah, as a
All right.
developer, I applaud the people who work with that code base, but I would be more than terrified to go anywhere near that program.
Yes, it's a dark hole. Anyway, so that is all for the banned and restricted announcement. We will be watching over the coming weeks, months, days probably to
Yeah.
see how things shake out, and we'll obviously correspond back with y'all when things change. All right, Chev. So we have a new set coming out, which is crazy because it feels like we just had a set coming out. But
Yeah, yeah, it's time for our summer. Oh no, I was gonna say it's time for the summer. What's it? They have a name for it, but it's basically like innovation set. But that was Jumpstart. So this is just a master set that I think is taking the place of Commander 2020 since that came out with Ikoria. So
yes,
not that I'm against it, but yeah, it's definitely like this whole summer has been the summer of spoilers, which has definitely kept me more sane than I would have been with normal stuck at home orders.
yeah. I mean, it makes our job easy because it feels like every other week we just have new spoilers, and that's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
free
Whenever we're
content.
running
So
out of content, like we'll just take a couple weeks off and wait for the next spoilers to start.
exactly. So what, Chev? Why don't you tell us what the set is, what the premise behind the set is, and then we'll start talking some actual cards.
Yeah, yeah. So Double Masters is the new master set. Wizards has this policy of like saying something is dead, they won't do it anymore, and then waiting 2 years and then bringing it back. We saw this with core sets. There it was 4 years from M15 to M19, and we're seeing it again with Double Masters. Which Ultimate Masters came out in 2018, and they said that's it. We're done with Masters for a while. We know you guys are getting tired, and then give it 2 years, and we're back and running. The interesting thing here is there's been some changes to, I guess, make it more desirable. Hopefully, it doesn't impact the price of the packs as well, but I feel like with no MSRP, it will have to. But the idea is that each pack has one less common and one more rare or mythic, which is bonkers. Julian loves it when I use that word, so I got to use it as much as possible.
So
Uh,
that's where the double comes from. Double
exactly, yeah.
double the money
Double
card
double
theory.
there, and then they seem to be trying to capitalize on. So originally, this is something that we'll go back for a little bit, and then we'll bring it around. Ultimate Masters, the last master set that was totally awesome, was originally a graveyard master set. And if you look at the symbol, you'll see these like kind of two skulls sort of going in circles around each other. And the idea was to focus around the graveyard theme. But once they realized that that would be the last master set for a while, they took out a lot of the fluff and filled it with cards they would have included in other master set and just made it like a totally ridiculous set overall. And we're seeing some of that similar vibes with this set. So it's the theme is double masters, but the original influence for this set was a previously scrapped artifact master set. And Mark Rosewater has an awesome article on the Mothership where he kind of goes into it, where they had a spot they needed to fill, and so they took this half designed set and kind of filled in the blanks with double themes. So we have cards like Lux Cannon, um, Sword of War and Peace, the Urza lands, Karn liberated, all these crazy things that are clearly like, oh, these are powerful artifacts. Like, if I had to pick what is getting reprinted in an artifact-based set, it would be all of these things. But at the same time, then they were like, all right, we gotta add to the doubling theme. So then we also see doubling season, Atraxa, um, what else? The thought reflection and boon reflection. So we're seeing like all these things that are kind of added, it seems, to make it work with the theme. While as a runner of a colorless commander deck, I could not be more happy with the fact that this is based on an old, forgotten artifact masters. But yeah, so the big things are two rares, two mythics, or two rares and or mythics per pack. And when you draft, your first pick will be take two cards. Because R&D realized it would be real sad to open two fantastic mythics in your pack and only be able to take one of them. So use that to take your two rares or mythics, use that to take two synergistic cards, but it should lead to some really interesting environments, and I hope to be able to pull this open in paper.
That would be fun. Chev, I'm wondering, double masters, double the rares, double the fun, double whatever. Does that mean double the price?
I hope not. I mean, now that I forget when Wizards moved away from the MSRP model, but I wonder if it was before or after Ultimate Masters. I'm trying to remember how much Ultimate Masters ended up selling for per pack, because I bought a box of it, and I think the box cost me like 200. But I think that was also because people were really expecting Ultimate Masters to fail, and a lot of key aspects like Masters 25 did just a few months earlier. Because in that set, there was the Tree of Redemption story where there was a mythic green spot and they decided to fill it with Tree of Redemption, and no one was really happy
Right,
about that.
right. Yeah,
But
that's a
yeah,
meme card.
yeah. So expectations were low. I don't think expectations are low this time around. But I really hope we're not back up to the $15 per pack like we saw with previous Master sets. Like I think Eternal Masters was up there. I think Modern Horizons was 7 per pack, or maybe closer to 5. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, I guess we just got to hold our breath and see where people are going. Let's do a quick search. Let's go to TCG Player and see how much these boxes are selling for.
Yeah, give us some info.
Do processing double masters booster box. There we go. It looks like TCG is selling them for $300. Seems to be the going. So if there's 24, Julian, you're good at math, right? What's 300 divided by 24?
Uh,
Too slow. It's 12.5. So those
oh, I was
packs.
gonna say it's about 15.
Yeah. So if this is to be believed, I assume they're going to come down a little bit once we start seeing like the chaff of the set. Right now, we've just seen the absolute bangers as most release seasons go, but
Yeah.
300 is a big ask for these things. I think.
Yeah, I mean they always inflate the pre-order prices anyway, but I would not be surprised if these are selling for around $10 a pack, which is
Yeah.
double, a little bit more than double a normal pack. So
Yeah, but it is in line with what previous Masters sets have gone. Even so, like the Masters packs that only have one rare per set generally sell around the $8 to $12 range, or kind of like in the middle somewhere. So if Double Masters is around the same price, that's double the chance of getting good stuff for no extra money down.
that's true. You're true. Why don't we talk about some of that good stuff? Because I'm looking through the spoiler, and there are a lot of cards that I would love to open.
Yeah, no, there's a lot. Originally we talked about trying to go over all of them. I think for the sake of our viewers, we should pick like one or two or themes and kind of go back and forth and pick our favorite sort of. Because like the only way that you can cover all of this is if you just go to scryfall.com or Mythic Spoiler or the Mothership, wherever you get your spoiler news, and just like drool a little bit as you scroll down the page.
Yeah. So one of the big ones, especially for commander players like us, that fits right into the double masters theme is doubling season, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
Very powerful enchantment. For some reason, has only been reprinted. I want to say this is the second time it's been reprinted.
Yeah, it was reprinted in Battle Bond and now here.
Yes, and
Or no, it got a Masters printing. One of the Masters sets. Yeah, Modern Masters, the original Modern Masters, it got printed.
yeah. Well, anyway, it's one of those cards that even when it's been reprinted a few times, it's still like a
Oh
$50
yeah.
card.
Yep.
So we're glad to see it again. And I think this is a perfect time to talk about that. A lot of these cards, as Wizards has been doing with basically all their sets recently, have borderless alternate art showcase versions.
Hmm.
So the doubling season one is like these cute two little dinosaurs coming out of
Yeah.
a singular egg, which I don't think is good as the original art, but some of
Yeah,
the
it's hard to
showcase
beat like
versions
the
are.
hydras kind of wrapped around each other, but it definitely hits a certain niche of the newer players that might be more into that sort of art style that we've seen more frequently nowadays.
Yeah, and I'm actually looking at some of the showcase arts right here, and they don't. It's not like where in Ikoria they all had that comic book art style. These are really a varied kind of art style, which I think
Yeah,
is interesting.
it
They all
seems like,
feel
and
unique.
yeah, I could be wrong in this, but it seems like a lot of these showcase ones are like an older style of magic art, like not necessarily hand drawn, but I'm looking at the Mana Crypt one. By the way, Mana Crypt's in the set as well, which wow. And like Kali of the Vast, again, amazing. And then the Tron lands that have their own alternate treatment, like it seems to harken back to like old border Magic days with some of the art style, and I definitely think it's a really cool, like it's a space we've talked about before, wishing that they had like an old border master set as kind of like a really cool concept that exists. But it's cool to see like some of these older sort of art ideas coming back. I think for sure.
Yeah, it definitely does give me that old style vibe, but like the old style
Hmm.
vibe if it got like a 4K HD remaster. Really,
Exactly. Yeah.
it's a lot crisper, it's a lot brighter, it's a lot
Yep.
more in your face, which I appreciate. So yeah, like you said, Mana Crypt in the set, Artifact Masters, the Urza's lands in the set, which they actually form a very nice panorama. You look
Hmm.
at them all next to each other, which is sweet. I think you said you're going to be picking those up for your Kozilek deck.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. At the very least, I'll wait for the normal bordered Urza's lands to to be like $1 each, and then I'll slowly work my way towards getting the alt arts. But since Urza lands have been reprinted a ton, but since their original printing, it's always been with a white border. I need to upgrade my collection real quick because I like old borders, I like new borders, I don't like white borders.
Yeah, that was a questionable choice that we'll talk about. Maybe never, but maybe some other time. Another card that I'm a big fan of because especially I like the showcase art is Blightsteel Colossus, the big old
Yeah,
trampoline, infecty, indestructible
yeah.
boy is coming back. His alt art is sweet. It reminds me of the comic book ones that they just did in
Yeah, that's
Ikoria.
true. Yep. It's
He's
got
looking
that feel to it of just like
particularly.
someone who's actively, wrecking face as opposed to just standing there with the capability of wrecking face.
Yeah, it's a much more active pose, which is
Hmm.
I'm a big fan of.
I really want
Um,
them to print Blightsteel Colossus and Darksteel Colossus in the same set. So well, I do and I don't want that. I do want to see someone get real sad when it ends up Darksteel versus Blightsteel, and you just know you have the inferior one. Um, but at the same time, I think it would be funny.
yeah, Darksteel Colossus I think has only been printed like once or twice.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, why would I want a Darksteel when I can have a Blightsteel?
Right, but it's also
Clearly,
like a much
Phyrexia just makes everything better.
yeah, it's just a much safer card. You'd figure that they would print it as just like a
Yeah,
random
and it's
like
like
in like
since
a core set or something.
yeah, since Blightsteel is Darksteel, it's amazing that it has different numbers too. Because Darksteel is an 11-11 for 11, as opposed to a 12-12 for 11. But anyway, it
Well,
did
I
get a
mean, we all
sweet
know that
secret
if
layer
you
drop.
pay one extra mana, you just get infect. So
Yeah,
that's how it works.
I forgot it
Um,
got a secret layer drop. That was pretty cool.
yeah. Couple other cool artifacts since this was originally the artifact set. Worm Coil's coming back. That's great. That card just always is expensive. Sculpting
Hmm.
Steel, another great card. That's not always super expensive, but can usually be in the $5 to $7 range.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
more than it feels like it should be.
right. Expedition Map, which we just talked about getting random popper. Expedition Map is back. That's great, especially for playing Commander. It just gets you your Lands or whatever.
Hmm.
Engineered Explosives is a really big reprint. And also, I'm looking at Sunforger, which is a very underrated card, especially if you're
Oh
playing
yeah,
Commander.
Boros needs all the help they can get, and if you're playing Boros and not playing Sunforger, you're doing something wrong.
Right. Let's see what else is there that's great. Oh,
Well,
I have to shout out Sharoom the Hegemon, one of my
yeah,
original Commander decks. I love that card so much. I'm glad it's getting reprinted.
yeah. I heard somewhere that they're going to be doing a few of these previously only available in foil from Commander decks cards. Sharoom being one of them, and then a few others. I think Atraxa might be there too, because Atraxa is also being reprinted. Because yes. But I feel like we might see
Right.
a few more down the line. I want to call out what is it, Worm Coil Engine, which I don't think we've seen since Commander 2014, where it was the bane of yours and my existence and our buddy Oakley's Duretti precon,
Yes, that
which
was a
definitely
powerful
seemed a
deck.
little OP. But yeah, I guess it fits into the theme of doubling masters and artifact set. So yay for the double whammy. Less yay that it's a mythic, but we'll survive.
Yeah, I don't think that card will ever not be a mythic,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Oh, that's true. It was originally printed as a mythic. For some reason, I thought it was a rare. Yeah. No, it can stay there then. I thought it got upshifted.
Um, Exploration's being reprinted.
Yep.
That card was also a $40 or $50 card. I think it's only been. It was originally printed back in Urza's. It
Saga.
was
Yeah.
Urza Saga, and then it was reprinted in the original Conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so this is much needed, and of course, uh, you may play an additional land on each of your turns. That's double the lands,
Got a little double
double the
going on.
masters, double the fun.
Yeah.
Amazing how that thing works out. I think the last card I want to talk about is Sneak Attack is getting another reprint.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so shout out Legacy, I guess. Also, it's got the better new art that is it's like the lizard thing, like action shot jumping down off the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. Sneak Attack is a cool card. I'm glad they're reprinting it. Is there anything else you wanted to mention, Chev? I mean, we've
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
only the second or third day of spoilers, so we don't have
yeah.
a
No,
lot to
it's
work with.
it's we've. I think the one thing that I would want to touch on is just before you get too hype, if you're on Scryfall specifically, you'll see the what is it, the unhinged, whatever the second unset was. Those glorious John Avon lands that look totally
Yes.
beautiful, totally awesome. If I am correct, these aren't available in the normal set. They're only available in the Double Masters VIP edition, which is a separate product. That's a little bit weird and probably not for many of us and our audience. But don't expect to open these in your normal pack. I believe I saw some rumor or I saw some leak on Reddit that was like the Battle for Zendikar full arts are going to be in the normal packs, but these unhinged versions are not, which is really sad because they are amazing lands. Hopefully, though, because each VIP edition comes with 10 of them, enough people will want to part with enough of their cash that we'll see like a flood of these into the market and they'll be relatively inexpensive. How true that is, I don't know, but I've got my fingers crossed because I would pick up these islands and these mountains for days. They're insane.
Yeah, those are kind of the OG gold standard when it comes to full art lands.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would love to be grabbing some of those. Unfortunately, I just don't think this VIP edition is gonna get the traction that it needs. I really almost
Yeah,
think that it's gonna be a matter of like just not that many people are gonna get it, and therefore by the law of supply and demand, things are gonna be
yeah. I don't know. I
more
can see it
expensive
either
than
way.
not.
We've seen like this progression of showcase versions of cards, Mythic edition, VIP edition of stuff, and like they always seem to sell out. So and every time one of these things comes up, it's like, is this a money grab? What is Wizards doing? Like, is this finally the thing that they realize they can't push it this far? And every time that it's been pushed, it ends up making them a ton of money. So yeah, I wouldn't be sure if this is the thing that stops this sort of like collector booster push, this sort of like higher tier of Magic. But I will say I don't the taste in my mouth of having really cool full art lands only available in the edition that costs you $100 for 30 cards feels bad compared to getting still decent lands, but definitely not as cool or iconic in the other packs. It's kind of like if you make this amount of money, you can have the cool lands. If you don't, you have slightly less cool lands.
Right. There does seem to be
A divide there.
a divide, which
The haves and the have-nots. When you see someone roll up to your local event and you've got your Double Masters full arts and they've got their VIP edition, it's going to be pauper versus whatever the other opposite of a pauper is.
a prince versus a pauper.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's really pushing the idea of, is this product for you? This product is not for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
but whatever. If
Yeah.
Wizards wants to, I mean, obviously people like to bring their stuff out. So Wizards is
Hmm.
just providing another outlet for that. So cannot blame them, especially if
If
they're
it's
raking
working,
in
it's
the dough
working,
of that
and if
sort of thing.
people are buying it, yeah, it's. And I guess I'm more okay with it being alternate arts of things as opposed to just alternate cards. Until we reach that, I think that would be my breaking point. If cards are only available in a sort of VIP format as opposed to just different art for them, then I'd be slightly upset. But now it's just kind of like I'm
You mean
bummed.
like a secret lair?
Like a what?
Like a secret lair?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like a secret lair. If they started putting out like new cards in a secret lair, it'd be like, I don't like that as much.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
Yeah,
we'll wait and see. Time will tell how these things shake out in the financial realm. I'm just hoping that I can get my hands on a couple of these packs to crack in person, maybe even do a draft with y'all.
yeah,
So,
no, that would be nice.
Chev, when is Double Masters releasing? Just so we can let the public know.
August 7th is when the set comes out. It'll be
August 7th.
probably my first purchase after setting up the Brew Crew Western office.
Very true. Very true. That is August 7th is very soon. I am looking at my calendar and I can confirm that it is close in temporal location to us.
Nerd.
I know, right? I just wanted to use cool words. So that's enough Double Masters talk for now. We will probably be talking about more of it next week when we cast.
Yup.
But I think that's pretty much it for the cast. So let's just go on to our last segment, a new segment that I want to call Brew of the Week, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever our fans want to give us better names for. Basically, just a little segment for me and Chev to highlight a card or an idea or something that we think warrants more attention from the community as a whole. Not necessarily something we're going to write an article about, but just something that we wanted to bring to y'all's attention. So, Chev, what do you got for us today?
So my pick of the week is going to be a instant from Rivals of Ixalan called Release to the Wind. It's U and 2 instant. Exile target non-land permanent. For as long as that card remains exiled, its owner may cast it without paying its mana cost. Now, I remember when this was spoiled, a lot of people were like, oh, okay, this is a weird blink effect. But, at the end of the day, it's really just a blink effect that costs probably one more mana than it normally does. And but you get to blink it back whenever is the big benefit. Now, as a connoisseur of a generally not thought about tribe, I noticed that this allows you to do double cast triggers. Since you're not putting it back on the battlefield, you're actually casting it again. And of course, Julian, I'm not sure if you remember them, but I'm a big fan of the Eldrazi, who are known for their
Never heard of them.
fairly, yeah, no, they're a little under the radar. They're generally seen as very fair and even sort of cast trigger effects, like entering the battlefield and exiling 2 permanents, or taking someone else's turn, or drawing up to 7 cards. Like, really, these are things that are nice little helpfuls to have. So, having Released to the Wind in blue, a color that, the Eldrazi have been in for ages, as another way to kind of repeat your Ulamog triggers at instant speed, um, or I guess not instant speed because you would just cast it when you normally cast it. But again, being able to either protect your permanence or and get access to it again, that's an amazing thing. And so my head, since this is the brew idea or making something up, there's another Eldrazi called Ulamog's Reclaimer, U and 4, from Battle for Zendikar, devoid 2/5. When it enters, put a card an opponent owns from exile into that player's graveyard. If you do, return target instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. So, we get into that. Now we're talking about bringing back Release to the Wind for a third time, maybe getting a third in a perfect world off of Ulamog, and you get to play a little bit of politics angle with trying to pick which opponent and commander to put a card back. Throw in a Conjurer's Closet, and you can bring back Ulamog's Reclaimer whenever, and you have the perfect Glass Canyon to just take all the turns, exile all the permanents, and draw all the cards. Now, of course, you might be thinking, what commanders would be good for such a heinous idea? And I've played Krufix for a while. Krufix could be a good home. And Julian, I'm sure you're gonna love this idea because you would
Oh
be the
boy.
person to see it first.
Oh
But
boy.
I've been toying with an Urza Eldrazi deck.
Um.
So, of course, if you're unfamiliar with the new
I
Urza from Modern Horizons, Julian, he's going to absolutely love this deck. It's going to be completely fair. Like, you'll have every way to kind of stop what's going on. It's 2U, 2UU, and the important effects are tap and untap artifact you control, add blue, that's nice. And 5, shuffle your library, then exile the top card. Until end of turn, you may play this card without paying its mana cost, which I did check. And, correct me if I'm wrong, but that does include casting for free, which means more triggers, more Eldrazi doing heinous things, but with access to blue, which, Julian, my Eldrazi haven't had in a while, and they're jonesing for their Rhystic Study and their counter spells and their Omniscience and Consecrated Sphinx and Pact of Negation, all these wonderful, wonderful things that blue provides and, helps make the Eldrazi more resilient, which they really need help with.
the only thing I can say is that you, sir, are a force of evil and not a force of good, and therefore you shall be smitten down.
Not if I counter it.
That is a sick interaction, though. I do. When I first saw Release to the Winds back a few years ago, when Ixalan was coming out, I was like, this is. I just didn't get it. I was like, this seems like a really roundabout way to do not a whole lot, but
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you're willing to jump through the hoops, it can provide a very powerful.
Yeah, and I mean, even for
Very
that
powerful
first
effect.
hoop, like that, just using it once, you're saving an Eldrazi from probably exile or any creature from exile, and then you can play it again whenever you want for free while getting those ETBs and cast triggers again. So even in a less than perfect world, it still doubles the effectiveness of your biggest creatures.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I guess I didn't ever think about because I was originally thinking of it in the context of standard.
Oh yeah,
It's
in
like
standard, it's an overcosted effect for something generally pretty minimal.
right, but in commander, theoretically you could save your or you don't even need to. You could just like play a Reclamation Sage, blow up someone's Soul Ring. Next turn, release to the winds it, and then now all of a sudden, 8 turns later, when someone plays Doubling Season, you can just be like, okay, my turn, bring the Rec Sage back in. Boom, now you don't have a Doubling Season.
Or hey, throw in a Leyline of Anticipation, cast all those things with Flash.
That's true. I mean, that's just getting into standard tricksy things that blue likes to do, messing with timing and all.
Maybe.
Yeah. But
all
very
right,
cool
Julian,
card, Jeff.
what's your pick?
So, Jeff, I actually picked a black card, and not only a black card, but a black card that would fit really well in a Golgari deck. So I'm trying to appeal to your sensibilities here.
All right, I'm with it. I'm with it.
This is an old card. It's not a very known about card. It's from Scourge, which I honestly don't even know when that came out. Maybe like 2000 or something. It's called Unspeakable Symbol. It's a black and a black for an enchantment, which you don't see many black enchantments like that.
Yeah, I know this one.
Yep, and all you do is it's got one thing. It says pay 3 life, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. So a lot of things you can do with this. One, especially in Commander, we are working with our life as a resource. We have 40 life, so paying 3 life is not that big of a deal, especially in black and potentially black-green, where there's a lot of ways to just gain incidental life. Next, you can do this as many times as you want. It's not an activate only on your turn whenever you cast a sorcery. You don't have to pay any mana for it, so theoretically, you could swing in. If it's unblocked, you could just pay a bunch of life and potentially hit someone for lethal, especially if you're doing anything with commander damage or infect.
Yep.
You can make blocking incredibly difficult because if they're attacking in with a bunch of creatures, you can set up your blocks and then all of a sudden pay 9 life and now they lose their whole board. And then also, this is great for anything that triggers when a 1/1 counter is placed on it. So if you're playing things like Fathom Sage, Evolution Sage, anything with like Evolve, anything that triggers when 1/1 counters are placed on it. And then also it helps to pile up on things like if you're playing Azuri Claw of Progress, which just wants all those 1/1 counters on it. So it's really nice. So it works a lot in those sort of Golgari, Simic, so I guess Sultai if you're playing this sort of decks that care about all those +1/+1 counters. But it's just a nice cheap enchantment at only 3 mana. The cost of paying 3 life is essentially negligible, at least for the first few activations.
Right.
And it's just a really versatile card in terms of making things tricky for your opponents. And the other thing is, it is one of those old cards where it says on target creatures. So back in the old days, you could basically target for everything. Nowadays, they kind of changed it where certain effects either only target your opponent or only target yourself.
Right.
You can even play politics, potentially saving someone's creature or buffing someone's creature so that they can punch through.
Now, of
by paying
course,
that life and giving
Julian,
them a bounty.
you're forgetting one commander who this would be very good for.
Please tell me, Chev.
Marchesa the Black Rose.
That's true. That fits perfectly into Marchesa's theme, just being allowing her to basically infinitely recur.
The effect, of course, we're talking about is whenever a creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it dies, return that card to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next end step. And since you control with a 1/1 counter. Okay, I was about to suggest some heinous shenanigans with the fact you can put 1/1 counters on anything, but luckily, Wizards thought that through.
If that was how that worked, that would be absolutely bonkers. But yeah. So just a versatile card, a card that not a lot of people know about, and you don't really see these sort of things in mono black where you can just like pump your creatures. I mean, black has enough beefy demons as it is, but this is just another way to kind of beef up those defenses and beef up those offenses as well. So unspeakable symbol, put it in your decks. It deserves some more love. I guarantee you, it's like 79 cents probably. So
yeah, I think so.
All right, so that's it for me. I think that's it for you, Chev.
That is it for me.
Next week we'll be back talking about more double masters plus whatever else we can pull out of our butts. But in the meantime, we hope that you guys have a great one. And this is the Brew Crew signing out.
Peace.